It is day 8 of our 25 days of reflections towards Christmas. I believe you reflected on our discussion for yesterday. Our reflection today is titled Divine Favour. Favor is what you don't deserve but that is given anyway. Favor is sweet and desirable as it changes human story and experience. There is the human favor and there is the divine favor. Human favor comes from people and is often based on subjective, conditional, or merit-based factors. It may depend on social status, appearance, achievement, wealth, or the ability to meet someone's expectations. But divine favor comes directly from God, independent of human effort, status, or merit. It is an act of grace and is rooted in God's sovereign will and purposes. Divine favors refer to the unmerited grace and special preference that God shows to individuals, enabling them to fulfill His purposes. In the context of Mary being chosen to give birth to Jesus, divine favor highlights God's sovereign choice, grace, and plan, rather than any merit or qualification on Mary's part. So divine favor is an expression of God's mercy and not human merit. That is why when a man is favored, he or she will not struggle to have what others struggles to get. God's intervention for such individual takes the place of human effort or struggling. The concept of divine favor is mentioned during the angel Gabriel's announcement to Mary in Luke chapter 1 verses 26 to 38. Gabriel addressed Mary saying, "Greetings, you who are highly favored. The Lord is with you." The term highly favored indicates that Mary was the recipient of God's grace and that had been uniquely chosen for an extraordinary role. This favor was not due to Mary's own merit, but stemmed from God's sovereign will and purpose. God selected Mary, a young virgin from an obscure town, Nazareth, to fulfill the prophecy of the Messiah virgin birth. Her selection demonstrates God's favor upon the humble and unassuming. Despite being troubled and questioning how this will happen, Mary responded with faith and submission, saying, "I am the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled." Our acceptance of God's plan demonstrates our willingness to cooperate with divine favor, even at great personal cost, as we risk misunderstanding, shame, and ridicule due to our unwed pregnancy. Mary's favor was not earned by her status or by her wealth or by her deeds. She was a young, poor, and humble woman, reflecting how God's grace often chooses the unlikely and lowly for His purposes. God's favor empowered Mary to carry out the extraordinary task of bearing the Messiah. The Holy Spirit enabled her conception of Jesus, affirming that divine favor comes with divine empowerment. Being highly favored did not make an easy or privileged life for Mary. Instead, it brought significant challenges, including societal judgment and the emotional pain of witnessing her son's suffering and death. Divine favor often involves responsibility and sacrifice. Mary's selection highlights God's sovereign control over human history and His ability to use ordinary people to accomplish extraordinary things. She was chosen to fulfill God's redemptive plan through Jesus Christ. Mary's response to God's favor serves as a model for believers. Our humility, submission, and trust in God reflect how divine favor requires faith and willingness to participate in God's work. While Mary was uniquely chosen, her experience demonstrates that divine favor is an act of grace available to all believers. God's favor enables individuals to fulfill their purpose despite their limitations. Mary's selection reminds us that God often works through the humble, marginalized, and lowly. Our story reflects God's principle of exalting the humble. Divine favor often includes a call to serve God's purpose, which may involve challenges and sacrifices. Mary's life was marked by submission and trust, even in the face of uncertainty. Mary's role in birthing Jesus was not about her glory, but about God's plan to redeem humanity through Christ. Divine favors always point back to God's glory and purpose. God's choice of Mary to birth Jesus exemplifies divine favor as an act of grace rooted in God's sovereign will. Mary's humble background and faith made her a vessel for God's greatest redemptive act. Our story shows that divine favor equips ordinary people for extraordinary purposes, calling them to trust in God's plan, respond in faith, and submit to God's will. As we reflect on Christmas, we need to understand that as Mary was a beneficiary of divine favor, so is every believer a beneficiary of God's favor, because we are saved by grace, which is defined as God's unmerited favor. You can check that in Ephesians chapter 2, verses 7 to 8. God chose us for and unto himself. This favor makes every outcast that will come to Jesus a child of God. This favor delivered us and translated us into the kingdom of God's dear Son. This favor makes every sinner a saint. This favor gave us escape from eternal damnation. Therefore, celebrate this favor as we celebrate Christmas. Our reflective quote for today says, God's favor is not subject to human sentiment or prejudice. It is an expression of God's own prerogative. Merry Christmas in advance. Join me again tomorrow for another episode. I remain your brother, Reverend Oluwagbemiga Diemo, Minister for Christian Education, Youth and Family Life, Yaba Baptist Church, Lagos, Nigeria. Once again, thank you and God bless you.